It was rejected.
Oh no, don't tell.
So Judy and I talk about this, and I said, let me send you one or two slides to lay out the conversation. He says, no, we want you. So we want you just to come and be yourself, and let's just have a conversation. So there are some slides here, I think about 10 of them. Thank you, sir. So there are some slides here, about 10 of them. So the idea was not to use them at all, so that I become myself, because they were rejected anyway, so why should I share rejects with you? but when you have a look at them at your leisure, I think they will distill, synthesize just the journey that I've walked, and I chose to dedicate this graveyard session to just having a conversation with you. Do I have your permission just to have a conversation with you? Yes. About the practical experiences of being Bodan Mohale. Is that okay? Yes. So let me ask those people at the back to come and fill these tables here so that we have some peace in the house. So this beautiful, magnificent chart, which was the second that was promulgated after the liquid fuels and petroleum chart of 2000, 2010, and that it's 10-year term. So the mining charter says 26% has to be sold, not given. So if there's some white people here who are worried that they're giving things for free, sold, 26%. So you can see that they are reducing the incentives for foreign direct investment, but also for risk, but also to reverse this trend where jobs are created by small and medium enterprises. Government's role is to create a conducive environment in which entrepreneurship will thrive, where companies feel that there's regulatory certainty and they're prepared to put the equipment into the ground. So to conclude this, as you think about it, 546 billion South African rands are sitting in companies' coffers. They are shit scared, excuse the French, to invest it because of this regulatory uncertainty. We could be creating jobs. So our unemployment rate is 25.2%, just moved to 25.6%. But we know we are cheating because we use the ILO definition of unemployment, which says any economically active person that has been looking for a job in the last 36 months, they count them. I know many friends, many graduates who have been looking for 10 years. They came off that list at month 37. So real unemployment is 4 out of 10 people are unemployed. In rural areas, it's even more. So when your neighbor is hungry, guess who can't sleep at night? So the walls will go higher, the voltage will increase, and will become more and more insecure. So something else has to be done. So let me move from that bucket before you ask me another set of questions. And say, but also we have in this conversation an environment where I spoke about the US of A having gone through probably the deepest recession since the Deep Depression in 2008. And then Europe as well, by those 5 countries, they are also in trouble. So if you have a student like my daughter who's just graduated from IE University, Europe's #1 business school with international MBA in Madrid, she can get a job in Madrid or in the EU. Fortunately, she's a South African, so she's home here with me. That's why I walk around with people and smile on my face. So I only have 2 daughters. The other one is Manuel. She's doing her 3rd year at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. So I'm sure in their dreams, they thought, if I work 2 years, maybe in Europe, I could come back and be more sellable. I would have increased my currency a little bit. But I don't think there's anybody who wants to employ them there. So they are forced to come here. So you can see how this has really affected us. But if we're clever Africans, we then say, for those manufacturers of goods and services, they can't sell them in the States. It's saturated. They can't sell them in Europe. It's saturated. Is this not the century for Africa, where there's really a billion people? But we have to do both things right and the right things. And that's where we get unstuck. And Japan, on the other side, they're still hating from the fact that they used to be the 2nd biggest economy. They are now #3, and they're saying, okay, we are going to embark on quantitative easing measures that will make these other two blocks look like Sunday picnics, called Abenomics. These guys are working because they want to reclaim their number 2 position. What is South Africa doing? We're not even thinking about a ranking. So at a personal level and at leadership, then, if you define leadership within that context, to say anybody that feels called upon to lead is indeed a leader. And for me, I think about it in 3 buckets. So there's a bucket around context, because every leader is a product of their own context. Ask Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela. The only thing that he had to solve for us is reconciliation. Because without that, we couldn't even get out of the starting blocks. The second piece is around direction setting. So leaders set direction. They actually say we're going to turn left 1 degree. That's leadership. Not what Minister Dinapule told us on the way to Mangaung, to say, Telkom is in a mess. I don't know how to solve it. The board has worked on a plan to sell about 25% stake to a foreign strategic investor to figure out how we're going to do this. I will reject that, even if I have no plan. And when asked, on what basis do you reject? I said, no, don't worry. On my way to Mangaung, I'm going to ask the ANC delegates. They are the ones who are going to decide the strategic thrust of Telkom. Now, in all reality, I love people who go to ANC meetings, but most of them sometimes come from informal settlement. Most of them might not have a full appreciation of the fact that Telkom actually used to own 50% of Vodacom, because Vodacom didn't exist. They created it. It was their own creation from scratch. And they used to get free dividends for not lifting a fee. Free dividends. Let's say 300 billion a year every year. So that we can deal with the numbers. Let's call it 30 billion a year every year in profit for doing nothing. And you could see the cellular industry was doing this. And Telkom decides to sell this stake. So thereby killing both the goose. This one was a golden goose that lays golden eggs. After selling it for 20 billion, then they decide they are going to start their own cellular telephony company called Airtel. They've already spent 28 billion. Remember, they sold for 28 billion, and it still is not 1/10 of Cell C's subscribers. Now you want that complexity to take it to people who have never rubbed 220 rand notes together and say, let's work together the strategy for Telkom, and hope that you have put your best foot forward. So there's that piece around direction setting. Direction is set by leaders. Then the last piece is around organizational capability. It rests on 4 legs. People. So leaders start first with the who, then the what. Because the biggest asset we have in any of our companies, it's people. Because organizations that are inappropriately located can move their headquarters. The ones that are short on cash, they can go and leverage their position and borrow money. But a company that is poor on people, it's a dead company. The second is around structure. So Leadership 101 says, structure follows strategy. How we are going to relate. In organizations, there are some chiefs and there are some Indians, so that we know to avoid entropy, chaos. So in the mines, the drillers go underground. They put the dynamite, they light it, they hide behind the rock. This thing explodes. That's their job. Imagine when the rock drillers try to tell the CEOs of Lonmin how to leverage their position. That's not their job. So structure is important. The third is technology. I've spoken a little bit about it, systems and process. And then the last is culture. That's where leadership comes on its own. What type of culture you want in your own organization? Culture can only be set from the top. Only from the top. How you do it, of course, you can consult and participate, but you set the tone. So if you ordinarily tell your 2 daughters, like I have, when they're looking for photocopy papers, and oh, don't worry, I'll bring it from the office. You are actually giving permission to the rest of the organization that they can take the furniture home. And there is nothing that is more critical in the job that we do than this thing called culture. When you look at a clip of the World Economic Forum on YouTube around the smell of the place. You've all seen the smell of the place. Please Google it, because it says you as the leader choose whether the smell of the place, when somebody walks into your organization for the first time at reception, whether it's a smell of hot, sweaty Calcutta, or the beautiful flowers of Fontaine. You choose. And that's why we are all here. So when one steadily burns the midnight oil, especially around issues of leadership, one gains access to the domain of knowledge and wisdom, the world of meaning, the world that cannot be conquered without a persistent crusade. So ask the difficult questions. Let's have a conversation now so that I can go home and go back to Susan.